Welcome back to the Ignite podcast. Today, we're delighted to have Nabil Jallouli on the program, CEO and co-founder of Rollstack. Nabil, would love to get an intro from you for the audience.
Thank you, Brian, for the intro, and great to be here. So I am Nabil. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Rollstack, and Rollstack is essentially a software that helps companies and teams to automate their slide decks and documents. The problem that we're solving is that today, if you look at all the companies, around the globe, and even more so the big ones, you find teams spending a lot of time creating and updating their slide decks and docs, whether for their weekly business reviews, financial reporting, or client presentations. So Rollstack's goal is really to fully automate that process and take that away from teams' plates. We help pretty large companies, companies like Workrise or Sony Music, to automate their financial reporting, business reviews, and client presentations. And we like to define ourselves as the last mile bridgers between business intelligence tools and then slide decks and documents platforms.
Love that. So what's the, and I empathize with this pain so much because I worked for 4 years at Microsoft and we run the entire company on PowerPoint. And I remember going into these weekly or monthly business reviews, quarterly business reviews, partner review, whatever it is. And you're just going back through this deck and basically just updating all the numbers and the bullet points and what's going well, what's not going well. And I definitely empathize with this pain. What was the kind of the inception point for this idea? I mean, obviously, let's kind of start at the beginning, kind of professionally. How did you get from, let's say, your early career to founding Rollstack?
Yeah, I think we can probably trace that back to back when I was a kid, and so I was born. I think it's fair to say in a middle class family, where kind of not taking risks was the main motto. And
Go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, something like that.
Exactly, exactly. The less risks you can take, the better you'll be in life, and just try to secure things in a very steady way.
It's a weird piece of advice to give a child, right? Don't take risks, because I don't know. When you talk to old people, if you talk to people and they're, I don't know, at the end of their lives, 70s, 80s, you ask them what one of their major regrets are. They'll say, I didn't take enough risks. And so it's kind of crazy that people that are in their middle years advising their kids would tell them to take less risks. Kind of a quirky generational parenting thing we have.
Yeah, no, that's true for sure. And, I don't blame actually anyone for this. I think that based on your background, you are kind of conditioned to think in a certain way. So, we are the sum at any given point of all the experiences that we had up until that point. So, really based on the background that you had, the environments that you grew up in, you will be conditioned to think in a certain way. And I also deeply believe that we are all the same. I really believe that. I think that in the world, there are folks that tend to focus on the differences, and I've always focused on things that are in common in people. And I really think that if you take two individuals, put them in the exact same background, being deterministic by nature, I think that the outcome is very likely going to be the same. But yeah, so
I love that. I love that what you're saying, because I read a book called The Blank Slate by Steven Pinker. I think it's the author, 20 years ago, and he basically made that point. It's like, he was saying basically there's this fallacy of blank slate where we determine. Basically, I think the point he's making is it's up to us how we end up. It's not genetics, it's not environment. It's sort of it is a combination of all those things. But I love that.
Absolutely. And I actually have a twin brother, so I know a bit about genetics, and also just seeing how we went into different paths, but yet gathered back, as he is one of my two co-founders.
I don't know if this is true, but somebody really smart that I respect said that your children have more in common DNA-wise with your neighbors than they do with their parents. I was like, I don't know if that's true, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's interesting statement. Yeah. But yeah, so you know what? But I really believe that one of the blessings that I had in life is having mom, you know, that was a teacher, really
Mm,
pushed us hard on being very good at academics in general, and then a dad who was an engineer, and that, you know, got us internet when we were 5 years old, and so we opened our eyes, you know, on a computer. You know, we're already on the internet at 5 years old and building stuff with my twin brother. But again, you know, coming from our background, we really wanted to have a steady career, and that's how, you know, I went to study engineering. Went to France, where I studied engineering school at one
mm,
of the best engineering universities there, Ecole Centrale Paris, that produced, you know, some pretty famous alumni like the Mr. Eiffel, actually, who built the Eiffel Tower. You know, some famous folks
mm.
like Michelin from the tires, and more recently the founders of Datadog
Oh,
and Business
yeah.
Objects and Moderna as well. And yeah, after that, again, went for the less risky career path that I could take. You know, started in consulting at BCG, learned
Mm,
a lot. Had the chance to also work at Agile One in Silicon Valley, and in in SF, and that was a Sequoia-backed, what we call now a customer data platform.
mm.
And there, you know, worked with amazing people, learned a lot, and this is where my heart swayed the side of Silicon Valley versus you know, Wall Street and New York. So I decided to work in tech for the rest of my career, and after that, so worked at Groupon, where I essentially led their analytics and data science teams for international. Then worked at Pinterest in a pretty similar role in analytics, and more recently at GL, where I was leading their revenue operations function
Mm.
prior to starting Rollstack. And to your point, you know, around where the insights came from, I think what was pretty obvious to me is, you know, the one of the common things across all these companies, that you definitely found a lot of time that was wasted in creating those data driven decks. And I think the paradox is, you know, those were companies that were, what you can, I think, fairly say, at the state of the art data stack that exists. So, you know, they had all the best in class tools. You know, they were kind of the bleeding edge of technology and data, and yet you found, you know, people taking screenshots, plugging data into those
Mm.
various content platforms, and on a weekly basis, especially that, you know, in those large environments, you have to monitor performance at least on a weekly basis to meet your um, you know, to meet your goals. And those are generally, you know, dictated by the market, and you need to have a pretty good forecasting across the organization to be able to predict, you know, what your results are going to be on a weekly, even daily basis.
Yeah. So to, walk us through the inception here. So you're basically updating these decks at these various companies. What is that? So you have this idea. Walk us through the genesis of the idea and the formation of the team and kind of the first steps towards founding Rollstack.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I think one thing that we really believe firmly at Rollstack is that there's been some major shifts in the data kind of transformation journey over the past years. And, you know, the same way in, you know, let's say between 2000 and 2010, data warehousing, you know, got cheaper. Data storage also got cheaper, and you had some, you know, amazing tools being born out of that thesis, like Snowflake and BigQuery, really making it, you know, really easy for folks to store and do data warehousing.
Mm-hmm.
I think over the past years, you know, with DBT, data transformation become very, very easy, and is now accessible by, you know, data analysts that know how to write SQL. No longer, you know, you don't no longer need data engineers that combine both Python and SQL. Essentially, a data analyst can do this transformation work.
Yeah.
And with that, so it means that the a lot of the requirements that were needed from a BI tools are nowadays, you know, obsolete. So, you know, back in the days, a BI tool was required to do transformation, to do joins, to you know, aggregate your tables. Nowadays, it's really reduced to the visualization layer, because even the metrics layer you can say, will be abstracted directly in the ETLs and
Yeah.
in SQL. So, which means that BI tools at the end of the day will be reduced to visualization tools, and which also means that their differentiation will be made on, one, the quality of their viz, two, how well they integrate with the various tools of the ecosystem. And obviously, slide decks and docs are just the preferred medium of sharing insights and knowledge across any organization. It just has been that way forever. When people didn't have a computer, they would project those physical slides on a
Right.
projector, right?
Yeah.
And then with the internet, now we have Google Slides and we have PowerPoint. And
Still kind of the same medium, though, in a way, right? Just kind of technologically enabled slides, and docs, and it's been like that for centuries. You have this doc that you read, a book or a scroll or whatever it is. It's something that fits in your hand that has words on it, or on a screen. And then same thing with the slides, right? That's this something that we've been. You look at old timey films, from a long time ago. They'd have the flipboards with diagrams and papers, and I guess they still use that in the Senate or whatever, Senate hearings and courtrooms. But yeah, I think they're kind of timeless sort of mediums of communicating information.
absolutely, and it's very likely still going to be the case. And for us, while the medium kind of became digital, I think it's fair to say that there were very little improvement in how teams were building those materials. So you still had people writing content manually, getting data in there manually, and we just thought that there had to be a better way, and this is where Rollstack was born.
Yeah. So how does it work? So I'm presenting kind of a QBR, MBR, MBR, like whatever the BR is. And let's say I have let's just take sales. Everybody understands sales. So there's some sales funnel. I got a certain number of MQLs and SQLs and demos and quotes. I got this funnel. How does it work? How do I plug this in?
Yeah, so great question. So it's really super easy. The platform was really meant to be for the end user and the business user to be able to use independently from the data team. So it really doesn't require any technical skill whatsoever. So that is really important to say. The platform is really meant to be for a salesperson, a customer success manager to build independently from the data team without continuously bugging them for data cuts or data upload or data downloads so that they can build what they need. So the way it works is you connect your data source, and this can be, for now, BI tools like Tableau, Looker, Metabase. And then on the other side, you connect your content platforms, whether it's slide decks or documents. Both formats are supported. We also support both the G Suite and the Microsoft Suite. And then from there, you will build your template. So you can say, this is what my QBR template is, or my WBR template is. So on slide 1, I want my MQLs. On slide 2, I want my revenue. On slide 3, I want my conversion rate. On slide 4, I want my pipeline overview, and so on and so forth. And this way you will construct your deck. And then from here, you will always be only one click away from updating everything. So you have an update now button that will always be available for you, where in one click you can get the latest data in your deck. But you can also schedule your updates to happen on autopilot. So, really allowing your deck to update on a schedule. So yeah, after you connect your data sources, you connect your slide deck or document platforms. And again, here we really support all the platforms. So whether it's on the G Suite or the Microsoft Suite. And then from there, you will construct your deck by saying, hey, on slide 1, I want to have my revenues. Slide 2, I want to have my MQL. Slide 3, I want to look at my conversion rate. Slide 4, the pipeline state, and so on and so forth. Once you do that, Rollstack allows you to, at any time, update everything in just one click through an Update Now button that is always available for you to click on. But you can also schedule the update of your decks or document to happen on autopilot. So you can schedule your WBR. If, let's say, you're running all your WBRs on Thursday, you can simply schedule that to run, every Thursday at 7 a.m. before your meeting at 10. And Rollstack will take care of updating those for you. Now, Rollstack also serves the use case of creating different slide decks or documents based on various granularities. And the typical use cases for those is, you are a big company, Microsoft, you have multiple sales teams, right, that you need to compare on comparable set of metrics. So you need to be able to tell, which team is performing better than the other. So you, for that, need to have a consistent and a comparable framework that you use across. Rollstack allows you to scale your reporting across, all your, let's say, geographies or all your sales teams or any type of granularity you want to scale your reporting across in just a few clicks. And this is really our, star feature that we call collections. So collections allow you to turn any presentation or document that you've created once into a template that you can use to generate as many variants at scale. So, an amazing use case for sales teams is to create one MBR per client. And, when you ask sales teams where they're spending, especially customer success teams, where they're spending, most of their time, they're going to tell you reporting. And this is where, Rollstack comes into play, because we're really liberating them from those repetitive, time-consuming tasks that are low added value for them, to focus on client conversations, and conversations that drive value for them and for the company, rather than building those decks on a monthly or quarterly basis. Similarly, for business teams or internal teams, whether it's analytics, strategy, RevOps, finance, marketing, we're allowing them to, drive insights and drive actions rather than creating those materials at the frequency of needed by their business.
I love this because it fits perfectly with my thesis as an investor, which is a huge problem. People are doing it manually in an inefficient way with lots of friction, right? And using software to just do it better. And I think that's why it's striking a nerve. You guys are having some impressive growth. Why do you think it's so successful so early on?
Yeah, I think part of it is that the problem is real. So we're I think really the problem resonates with every company we talk with. Where I would say the only objections that we might have are around data sources that we don't currently support. But the problem is very present whether you're talking with customer success teams again, simply because if you're managing a book of business of, let's say, just 10 plus clients, it can be super time consuming to build one personalized deck per client on a monthly or quarterly basis. Same if you're, an analyst within the marketing department, building or spending 5 hours per week on creating those WBRs, that's also time, that you could be spending on more, added value tasks that are directly impacting your company and, just driving initiatives that are impacting the P&L of your company. So the problem really resonates with various teams. And I would say that that's number one. And then number two, in in very YC fashion, we don't follow the buzzwords or don't follow the trends, but we were just really heads down focus on solving the need of our customers. And we always see technology as a mean and tools as being just tools. But at the end of the day, what really matters is whether you're providing value to people, and there is no shortcuts in this game. You have to provide value for people to value your solution. And if it's not providing value, then you might be selling a dream, or you might be a good salesperson that might be able to secure the deal up front, but you won't be able to retain your customers. And at the end of the day, I really think that the best products win. And it doesn't mean that we're not focused on sales, that we're not focused on marketing, but I think at the core of what every tech company should do, I really believe that product should lead.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're solving a real problem that a lot of people can empathize with. Where are you getting the most traction? What kind of teams, what kind of sizes of companies, things like that? What functional areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think by nature, bigger companies would have bigger reporting needs simply because the more departments you have, the more you need visibility into what's the performance of these departments. So, by essence, I would say we're naturally, bigger companies are more attracted to our products. It doesn't mean that startups are not. We actually have some really amazing startups that we work with. Again, like Workrise, like Scopely, and others, and those are really super innovative startups. That are you could argue pretty big. I mean, both of them are unicorns, and that are just equipped with the latest and most modern data stack. So they really see us as the continuity of that modern data stack. So essentially, if you look at the data transformation journey today, you have your data warehousing solutions, or rather your data ingestion solutions, right? Then you have your data warehousing solutions, then data transformation solutions, then your business intelligence tools, and then there is this famous problem of the last mile. Now that you have data visualized, what do you do of it, right? And I think in the space, there are essentially two last mile problems. The first one is, now that you have your clean data, what do you do of it, right? So now that you have your revenue that is accurately calculated for every account, where how do you display that to your sales team so that they can get it at a quick glance in their CRM? And this is where companies that we really admire a lot, like High Touch or Census, are doing a pretty good job. So getting that data back into the systems. How we're solving the last mile is more for data analysts and business teams, by essentially getting them the data that they need into the content or the sharing medium of their choice, which is slide decks and docs. So again, whether you're a finance team looking to automate your financial reporting, or marketing or strategy team looking to automate your weekly business reviews, or a customer success team looking to automate your client reporting, Rollstack is just going to be the best solution for you to do so. And we've actually really expanded our suite of and range of products around sharing. So now you can schedule reports to be sent out to your clients automatically. So that way, as you scale your efforts across your clients, you can just decide to send automatically reports to your clients on a weekly or monthly basis, showing them the performance of on your platform. And this is something that we're seeing some
Yeah.
e-commerce platforms do and leverage the platform for. And it's just such a good way to showcase your value to your clients with minimal effort.
Yeah. I love that. Kind of switching gears a little bit and thinking about the larger ecosystem. I mean, Notion and Airtable really burst on the scene in the last, call it, 3 to 5 years. Why do you think they struck such a chord and been, so successful? And do you integrate with them? And how do you see them kind of as a partner or competitor, or another surface area to integrate with?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, we love Notion. We're actually big Notion users, and really love their products. And I think what Notion has done really well is that they were able to compete with the Word and Google Docs, which I don't think many companies managed to do over the past 10 years or even 20 years, right? I think probably aside from
Right.
Quip, that managed to build a pretty good product
Mm,
and then acquired by Salesforce. I don't think you had any good products that managed to compete with Word first. And then it's fair to say that Google Doc was
yeah.
able to do so because they just have such a big, large base that they can upsell to, and they really benefited massively from the startup scene over the past 10 years. That they managed to equip so many companies with Google Docs. And I think collaboration was obviously at the center of that, because that was a missing piece of Word, and it just really gave them a pretty good edge over Word. Now,
Yeah.
Notion is really an amazing case because it's all about the block system that they introduced and that was clearly missing from Word or GDoc. So the modular aspect was really a big feature for Notion, that explains how they were
Right.
able to seduce the users. That number one. I think the second one is obviously all the creators that start using the products. And Notion was really creative in reaching those through TikTok and just exploring some of the usually used for B2C channels, and just exploring that for their products. And so yeah, they really took off with the creator scene, and then from there become kind of broke. They really did a good work in bridging the gap between knowledge base and then document tool. So we think
Yeah.
that we will integrate with Notion at some point. And actually, when we started, we were just continuously thinking about how do we prioritize the productivity platforms, and Notion is definitely one of them. And also,
Mm.
I would say from a technical standpoint, they're really making it easy for us to build versus some of the more legacy platforms. And just how well
Right.
Notion integrates with the different tools, including Airtable, by the way, is just pretty fascinating. And then for Airtable, yeah, I think also capitalized massively on the startup scene. And I think where they did a really good job in kind of bridging the gap between database and a spreadsheet. We I don't think that for us, Airtable could be a data source. So essentially, our challenge is on one hand to integrate with all the data sources that are out there, and then on the other hand, with all the content platforms that are out there. On the content platform side, our life is way easier because there are not that many, right? But on the data sources side, there are obviously so many. So our deliberate choice was to start with BI tools because this is where most big companies are, and then from there go more and more upstream in kind of the data transformation journey. So yeah, at some point, Airtable is
Yeah.
definitely going to be one of the data sources that we support.
Yeah. So what's your vision for Rollstack? 10 years from now, you look back and, oh wow, this was such a big success. What did you accomplish, and what's Rollstack look like in 10 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we really want every single data-driven doc on Earth to be produced by Rollstack, and that includes some pretty important docs such as earnings results, earnings reports,
Mm.
P&Ls. We want everything to be powered through Rollstack, and just imagine all the potential out there. How many again teams are spending countless hours building companies earnings results or annual reports, or 10Ks on various various periods. And those are all reports that respect the same layout, they respect the same format. And ultimately our goal is really for every data driven document or deck to be powered by Rollstack.
Love it. So why don't we switch to a rapid fire round before we wrap up? What's your favorite book on business or technology?
That's an interesting one. I love Peter Thiel's From Zero to One, and
Mm.
completely unrelated, but one of my favorites ever is How to Influence People and Win Friends from Dale Carnegie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I've read that at least twice. Actually, I probably read it and listened to
You
the
have to.
audiobook. It's so good.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it just gives you all those little influence tricks. Give the people a
As an
fine reputation
engineer,
to live up to and things like that. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And as an engineer, learning how to sell,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a good asset.
Yeah, it's about the communicating enthusiasm. I mean, I spent many, many years of my life selling, right? I sold cars in college to pay for college, and I sold home stereos and car stereos, and I sold door to door in sixth grade from a magazine. So I'd knock on doors and be like, "Hey, do you want to buy anything from this magazine?"
That's
I've
awesome.
yeah, I've been in sales for a long time. Yeah,
Were you
very
selling at
very much a
Microsoft as well?
foundational core memory. Right at the end, right at the end. So as I was launching Team Ignite, before I went full time on Team Ignite, I went back to sales just for the last like 6 months or so,
Yeah.
um, just to sort of really honestly just to buy me some time. but but I did product there, I did BD, I did a variety of things, and yeah, I never
What was
did
your favorite department?
sales at that. Probably running the BD team over at Azure Marketplace. I think that was the most fun that I had there. Helping hundreds of startups scale with Azure Marketplace, get to co-sell, get transactable, find distribution in Microsoft, and that's when I really became an investor. Is through that
Nice.
experience, I realized I was having a lot more fun helping founders and talking to them. And that's when I started Team Ignite, the syndicate, and started pooling investor capital to invest in some of the startups I was learning about through my Microsoft uh, 40-hour work weeks. But speaking of 0 to 1, what was the biggest challenge in going 0 to 1 with Rollstack?
Yeah, that's really great question. I think for me specifically, it was unlearning many of the things that I had learned over my previous career, and having worked mostly at big companies, things work very differently from how they work at smaller companies when you're trying to start something off the ground. Um, when you're working at big companies, it's all about optimization and scale, right? When you're working at smaller or trying to start something off the ground, it's all about doing things that don't scale and just doing things manually, and exception to
Mm.
in one day to do just one thing, right? And to maybe not have any rewards, right? Maybe all you'll get is someone telling you that what you're building is not interesting at all, and then giving you bad feedback about your product. And you just have to accept that. And at big companies,
Mm.
your worst day is going to be something telling you, yeah, we need to do this analysis, right? And then you freak out because it's going to take you, maybe 10 hours to do, and the meeting is in 6 hours, right? Like that is going to be your worst day.
Mm.
But when you're starting something off the ground, your worst day is way more than that. It's like losing, six-figure deals. It's
Yeah.
it's realizing that
I
it's
call it getting
potentially
punched
your
in the
company
face.
dying.
You get punched in the face a lot.
Exactly.
I love that.
And so I had to unlearn a lot of the things that I had learned, over my career
Mm.
in bigger companies, and for me, that was really a big challenge, but it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Different toolbox. Who's a leader in tech that you admire?
Gosh, there are so many. um, there are so many. I think one is, yeah, um, yeah. I think Bill Gates. You have to.
Mm.
For me, Bill Gates is just he's like the Michael Jordan. Um, I mean, I just grew up being
Goat.
fascinated
The
by
tech
Bill
goat.
Gates. He is the goat for
Yeah.
me. Like really, Bill Gates is the goat, and I just grew up, fascinated by
Yeah.
Microsoft and all the suite of products. And I think in Silicon Valley specifically, there's this love and hate between of Bill Gates, where some consider him as the
Right.
rival of Steve
He's
Jobs.
the
That is,
antithesis kind of. Yeah. He's not Silicon Valley. He's Seattle, right? It's a different vibe.
exactly.
It's a much more exacting, cutthroat, juggernaut, second or third mover ecosystem platform kind of play. And it's a different kind of business than, beautiful, well-designed products in Cupertino. Yeah, it's a different kind of there's no right or wrong way to do tech, right? There's just
Exactly.
different angles, right? Like take like the Jeff Bezos angle, right? Different angle. Anyway, what
Exactly.
how do you
And I
think,
also, by
thinking
the way,
about the platform?
sorry to cut
Yeah.
you off, but I think you coming from Microsoft, you probably have seen, so many people become admirers of the Google era, of the past 10 years, where Google
Hmm.
products, I think it's fair to say, was pretty admired by the general public. But I think in the background, Microsoft has been making some pretty impressive moves. And right now, and
What I like about
I started.
Microsoft is they'll ship early. They don't wait for things to be perfect. Um, they just kind of roll with it. They'll ship an alpha product and see how it goes, and they'll kill it. Google will wait until it's really really perfected. They'll say it's beta, but it's like it pretty much works perfectly. Microsoft just like it's a true enterprise software company, which means oh, you need it, we'll build it. It won't be that good, but it'll be bundled into that price you pay per user for everything else.
Yeah.
And how do you think about that actually? Because I mean, that's Microsoft's been the bane of many startup existences in the past. How do you protect against them going, oh yeah, Rollstack, we got that. We just integrated that in the PowerPoint.
Yeah. I think we have in mind, a company that built its own business and its whole business over palliating the gaps of PowerPoint. And they become 100 million ARR company, and all with 100 people. So, and
Wow,
this is really a company
that's
that we
impressive.
admire a lot. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. They call it ThinkCell, and
Mm.
so I think
What is it for the audience?
so ThinkCell is a plugin. It's a PowerPoint plugin. That's their whole product.
Mm.
Widely used in consulting. So I don't think there is a single consulting firm that doesn't use ThinkCell. So widely used in consulting that
Mm.
allows you to create beautiful graphs on PowerPoint. That's all they do. Super
Mm.
easy graphs to create on
Wow,
PowerPoint,
hundred
and really,
million dollar revenue company, and that's all they do is just charts on PowerPoint.
absolutely, but
That's
super
insane.
sleek. A really cool, neat,
Yeah.
and really good looking. And I think the stat
You know what's
is,
funny is I'm looking at their website, and I probably their AI assistant's name is Brian, which is really funny to me. And looking at their company, if they sent me this and I looked at their website, I probably wouldn't invest. Their website looks like trash.
yeah, I think they were
I would be
acquired by
like, this looks like
Silverlake.
somebody's like college project, college CS project. Anyway, that's
Yeah,
funny.
they do more than 100 million in AR,
Brian, their
and
AI assistant. That's crazy.
but you know what, and when I thought about it, I think the trade-off for those large mass productivity tools is between building for the masses and then catering for specific audiences, and you can't do
Mm.
both, right? You can't have some
Yeah.
general features that cater to the masses, but at the same time cater to some very niche, because the risk there is that you'll overload your
Yeah.
product with features that only few folks need. So that's why you will always have those plugins or those companies that are trying to fill the gaps for those specific audiences. And yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
when you're a
How do you
Microsoft,
balance that? Yeah.
yeah, it's really a hard problem to solve. And I think again, their goal is to cater to the masses because it's a platform play. But again, what I want to say earlier is that I've now that we've built the PowerPoint and the Microsoft Suite integration, I kind of came back to realizing that Microsoft in the background was really making some pretty impressive leaps on their products that almost no one using the G Suite was noticing. And the reality is 90% of corporate America is on Microsoft. They're not on Google. My tech is a small word. Tech is on Google, but the rest of corporate America again is on Microsoft.
Yeah. Nobody ever got fired for buying Microsoft, right? Is the old IBM phrase. That's that's definitely the case, right? And the Microsoft, I mean, under Satya is just executed brilliantly. I mean, they're just kind of just killing it, and I benefited from that. I mean, they gave me an equity offer, and the stock tripled. It's probably what enabled me to get into venture capital in the first place, is having all that Microsoft equity flowing into my Fidelity account and just flowing right back out to venture funds and syndicated deals and angel investments. Anyway, how do you think? I mean, we're in the midst of a platform shift here with AI, right? You think about all the big platform shifts, starting with mainframes and PCs to the internet browser, mobile, and now we have AI, right? How does AI affect the UI and Rollstack in the next 5 years?
Yeah, look, there's also a topic that is really to our heart, and I think there's been some movements in AI already for maybe the past 20 years. What we've witnessed recently is more OpenAI taking everyone by storm by releasing their LLMs, and just showing the world where we were at in terms of LLMs and NLP research. And obviously all the big tech companies had their own algorithms, were making also some huge leaps in the field, but OpenAI just took everyone by storm by releasing to the masses a product that allows everyone to play with it and to realize how advanced we were in the NLP space. Now, I think the what you're saying with every kind of platform shift or every technology move is just all the hype and craziness that is built around it. And I think the moment you separate the hype from the real use cases, this is when you realize where LLMs can truly have an impact. And that impact is essentially in all the use cases where language plays a strong role. Because at the end of the day, LLMs are large language models. They are, at the essence, language models. They can't solve everything. They can't cure cancer. They can't, travel us to space. They can't, cure all the diseases out there. They're really very specific to the language aspect. And so, as such, there are many use cases where languages are very important. So when writing text, when writing blog posts, when creating content, text obviously plays a big part and plays a big role. So they can truly speed up the work there. When you're interacting with customer service, this is also an area where they can be super helpful. Now, when you are a startup trying to build on LLMs, I think it's also very important to consider what are the players in the space, right? So, for instance, if you think that now with LLMs you will go out there and compete with Intercom, right? That is already providing a chat service, a customer support service, just because you're leveraging OpenAI's models, that might be pretty risky as as a move. Simply because
Yeah.
in addition to LLMs, you have to build all the product features around customer support and do that in a better way than Intercom that has maybe 10 years of existence and that have already secured all those
Right.
features. So you're essentially betting that you will build all those faster than Intercom integrating LLMs into their platforms. So knowing that you're calling
Yeah.
OpenAI's API. So that is essentially the trade-off, is really thinking deep down, one, what are the use cases that where language plays a big part, where LLMs can tremendously improve the customer experience and the user service. And then two, consider the ecosystem again, because it can be sometimes foolish to consider that that you're going to build a moat or an edge on tapping into OpenAI's API, which in today's world everyone can do.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like saying I use databases in the 80s or 90s. Like, wow, you use databases, cool. Or like I use I'm internet. I use the internet. It's like, great. Like, are you actually solving a
Exactly.
customer problem? And this is something I wrestle with as an investor. Does it really unlock new business models, or does it accelerate existing ones? Right? Does it unlock new platform competitors to, like, say, Salesforce or Slack or whatever, Teams, Microsoft, you name it? Or is it just an accelerant for them? Right? It's just it's an enabling technology that it makes all that SaaS software that already exists more efficient. And so it's something I wrestle with as an investor. Is I try to look for companies like Rollstack that are really solving a customer problem in a kind of SaaS-y kind of way. SaaS-y meaning software as a service, not like sassy. And AI in that case is just an accelerant. It's not the thing. It's something that enables you to solve the problem even better, but it doesn't enable the thing in itself. Anyway, Nabil, this was such a great conversation. I could chat with you for another hour or two. Thanks for coming on the program.
Here. Thank you for your time, Brian. It was really a pleasure being here.
Likewise.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, man.